From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Another round of storms is heading for the valley. What you can do to stay safe and ready.
Plus, more Americans are trying to save money on medical treatments by crossing the border into Mexico.
And we'll hear about an unusual ally for teachers looking for school funding.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Audrey Wheel.
And I'm Sydney Glenn. Thanks for joining us. Monsoon season is over, but the Valley of the Sun continues to experience some extreme weather, including 2 funnel clouds spotted around the state. Cronkite News reporter Angie Schuster is here to tell you what's in store for the rest of the week and what you can do to be prepared.
Earlier today, I met with representatives from the Arizona Department of Transportation and the National Weather Service. They gave us tips for Arizonans driving through these storms and say homeowners need to prepare for strong winds and rain. The impending storms today and tomorrow seem out of the norm for a state that doesn't get much rain. And employees at the Arizona Department of Transportation are working extra hard with the rainy weather.
This morning we saw more accidents than on a typical weekday morning. And part of that's because we got such heavy rain so early on. People need to be able to leave their home a little bit earlier, give themselves a little bit more time to get to work so that they can drive a little more slowly.
ADOT has weather radar and traffic cameras set up in their traffic control center to watch for accidents and debris. If drivers aren't careful, they can end up in a chain reaction accident.
We want people to slow down. That's hard to do because we're used to driving fast, but you need to slow down. The second thing is to leave a little bit more room between you and the car in front of you. That'll give you more time to stop if that person stops unexpectedly or whatever happens in front.
But traffic accidents aren't the only side effect of the storms we've been having. Storm damage can be seen in hard-hit areas across the valley. Chunks of steel and pieces of wood. This is just some of the debris that can be seen strewn about this neighborhood near 55th Avenue and Coulter Street. This cotton storage warehouse behind me was completely leveled out by Sunday night's storm, and we saw more rain this morning. But the stormy weather isn't done just yet.
We're going to expect localized flooding, flash flooding to occur. That's a trend that we're going to see continue into the afternoon hours. Maybe wane a little bit as we go into the overnight hours, but we're still going to have that threat of thunderstorms tonight.
The National Weather Service told me that a larger storm system moving through the southwestern part of the country is the catalyst, kicking off these storms that are going to stay with us today and even go into tomorrow. In the broadcast center, Angie Schuster, Cronkite News.
A U.S. Border Patrol agent fired his weapon across the international border near Naco after allegedly seeing someone in Mexico pointing a weapon at him. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials say the agent was arresting someone on the U.S. side early Monday morning when he saw a person he believed was pointing a gun at him. Officials say the agent fired in the direction of the person because he feared for his life. It is still unknown if anyone was hit on the Mexican side.
This is the most recent shooting following a report issued by the American Civil Liberties Union of Arizona that alleges abuse of power on the border. The ACLU report lists incidents where agents used excessive force, searched vehicles without cause, and detained people without explanation. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol would not comment on the report, but the ACLU had some recommendations for the nation's largest law enforcement agency.
It's pretty shocking how little oversight there is over the agency, how few policies they have to govern, investigating civil rights complaints by people in the region, how few policies and what little oversight they have over disciplining officers or ways to correct that behavior.
Another man was sentenced in the death of a U.S. Border Patrol agent linked to a botched federal gun smuggling program. Rosario Rafael Barboa Alvarez shot Agent Brian Terry in 2010 and was sentenced to 27 years. Barboa Alvarez is the 3rd person to be convicted in the case. 2 of the guns were later linked back to the Fast and Furious operation, a failed gun smuggling program designed to track firearms bought in Phoenix area shops.
More middle-class Americans coping with higher out-of-pocket medical costs are now heading to Mexico. Medical tourism is thriving in Nogales. Cronkite News reporter Erica Lang talked to some of those seeking savings south of the border.
I'm here in Nogales, Mexico, just a few steps from the border, where on this block alone you have dentists, pharmacies, and other medical services that cater specifically to Americans. These musicians are playing a song about the scenic beauty of Sonora. But many Americans also cross the border looking for something else.
My dad told me I could get my teeth cleaned for 35 bucks.
And the savings quickly add up for major dental work.
You're going to spend 2,500 bucks in the States and you can do it for $800 here. You know, makes sense.
The cost of both private and public insurance has increased along with deductibles, and some services are not covered at all. It's especially difficult for retired Americans.
They have no insurance except Medicare, so they have no dental insurance, generally no eyeglass insurance. They have to go where they can afford it. And so if that means coming down here, that's where they go.
Take care of yourself.
Americans also go to pharmacies in Mexico for low-cost prescription drugs. Cristian Juarez Romero sees it all the time.
Their insurance doesn't cover the medicine, so it's very expensive. They prefer to come here and not spend as much.
Customers pay half price for some drugs in Mexico. And as medical costs continue to rise in the U.S., more Americans are expected to see Mexico as a solution.
Absolutely. Each year it increases the number of people that cross the border to get medical care.
The Reed family is among those who will continue to seek savings south of the border. In Nogales, Erica Lang, Cronkite News.
If you're heading to Mexico or any other foreign country for medical services, here are a few tips. Make sure to check for your doctor's medical credentials. Prepare in advance for any language barriers, and bring documents that are current and in order. Also, have an emergency contact and know your legal rights if something goes wrong. For a full multimedia report, head over to our website, cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
The two front-runners for Arizona's 2016 Senate race have raised nearly $6 million between them. According to new reports from the Federal Election Commission, Republican Senator John McCain has raised $4.6 million, more than 3 times the amount raised by his challenger, Representative Ann Kirkpatrick. Kirkpatrick's campaign says she thrives as the underdog, but analysts say beating McCain will be a tall task.
While Senator John McCain has a lot of money backing his campaign for re-election, he also has his fair share of opposition in the form of activist groups. Cronkite News reporter Adriana Barajas is tracking those details in our Washington bureau. Adriana?
That's right, Audrey. Emily's List, the nation's largest advocacy group for women in politics, placed Senator John McCain on notice, hoping this can open up his seat for the Arizona Senate race in the 2016 election.
John McCain has a long record of not standing up for the issues that matter to women and families. For example, he time and again has tried to block access to health care for women and families in Arizona.
Rachel Thomas says McCain's voting record may be too extreme for Arizona.
He has voted over 20 times not to raise the minimum wage, and these are issues that matter to not just women but men as well in Arizona.
And will voters care enough about the issues raised by Emily's List to defeat McCain? One expert doesn't believe so.
I don't think that you're going to defeat John McCain based on the position of one interest group.
Jones says it could make a small difference, but not to the point where McCain will be defeated.
To the extent that people are going to direct their votes, their energy, and their money based on Emily's List recommendations.
Emily's List has endorsed Congresswoman Ann Kirkpatrick in her bid against McCain. In a statement, Kirkpatrick campaign said, while John McCain's 3 decades in Congress will ensure he is well funded by special interests, Ann will be well equipped to run strong and fight hard against McCain and his dark money friends. McCain was one of 5 Republican senators targeted today by Emily's List, bringing the total number of Republicans put on notice to 23 state and federal lawmakers. Live in Washington, D.C., Adriana Barajas, Cronkite News.
Meanwhile, former Virginia Senator Jim Webb is denouncing the divisive nature in Washington after dropping out of the Democratic presidential race. Webb says he will now meet with people from across the political spectrum to consider a third-party run for president. Webb was critical of the Democratic Party's support during his campaign. Today he said he was also tired of Republicans and Democrats calling each other the enemy.
I know what an enemy really is from hard personal combat. The other party's not the enemy, they're the opposition. In our democracy, we're lucky to have an opposition.
Webb had trailed badly in the polls behind Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders.
The search is still ongoing for the next Speaker of the House, but current House Speaker John Boehner is keeping busy in the meantime. Boehner is expected to sign the National Defense Authorization Act today, a bill allocating funding for defense programs. Boehner has announced he's resigning from Congress, but says he will postpone that resignation until a new House Speaker is chosen.
Arizona education advocates say a new survey shows 71% of voters would support First Things First if the early childhood education program winds up on the ballot next year. Back in 2010, Arizonans voted by a similar margin against the state legislature, shifting First Things First money to K-12 funding. The survey of likely Arizona voters conducted by More Information also showed that 46% of voters give the legislature a grade of D or F for its work on public schools. 82% of voters also agree with the Arizona Supreme Court decision that rejected the legislature's attempted transfer of First Things First funds back in 2009.
More Arizona teachers are turning to crowdfunding to get the supplies they need for their classrooms. Cronkite News reporter James Anderson is looking into the trend.
As school budgets are squeezed, teachers are getting creative to make sure their students have the supplies they need. And one of the popular strategies is to use crowdfunding sites. A search of the Donors Choose teacher crowdfunding website shows about 600 ongoing fundraisers in the state. At Sunny Slope Elementary School in Phoenix, the dictionaries in the 7th and 8th grade language arts classrooms carry the wear and tear of some 10 years, but replacements are coming soon thanks to a new ally, GoFundMe. Sunny Slope serves underprivileged students, and the teachers say they will be excited to have new books. One of the teachers, Jenny Vargas, says small donations have added up. The GoFundMe site was started by a friend and in the past few hours met its goal of $953. For multimedia coverage and where you can go to donate, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Children with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder often face difficulties into adulthood.
Coming up on Cronkite News, there are programs to help children with FASD, but what happens once they become adults? One family shares their story.
At ASU, we believe the most important semester is the one that starts after you get your diploma, the one called life. So we work hard to help our alumni thrive, teaching them the importance of not only achieving their goals, but exceeding them. With innovative programs that embrace hands-on learning, that encourages real-world growth. Our alumni know it can be the education of a lifetime, for a lifetime. For more information, asu.edu.
I'm an urban gardener. I'm a PhD student in criminology law and society.
I have an expertise in construction history.
I also happen to be a swing dancer. Oh, and I'm a source.
And I really like being a source.
Great journalism requires great sources, and we want you to be one of them. Arizona PBS is building a network of viewers, people with insight into the stories we cover and the stories we should cover. Explore what it means to be a source for the Arizona PBS Public Insight Network at azpbs.org/pin. Are you a news junkie, history buff, science or nature lover? Then discover 8 World, an entire channel devoted to bringing the world home to Arizona. Watch 8 World on Cox 88 or over the air via antenna on 8.3. To find out how to tune into 8 World through your satellite or another cable provider, visit azpbs.org/world or call 602-496-2308. Discover your world. 8 World.
See this patio? There used to be a motorcycle sitting there, a bike I didn't use and didn't want, so I donated it to public television, and they took care of everything. In addition to supporting my favorite programs, I earned a tax deduction. Turn something you don't need into something you really want. Contact the Vehicle Donation Program.
8 is Arizona PBS, a service of Arizona State University.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 10 women report drinking alcohol while pregnant. A new study out this week says that unlike past research has shown, no amount of alcohol is safe for developing fetus. Children whose mothers drink alcohol during pregnancy can have a wide range of symptoms, including heart defects, lack of cognitive ability, impaired coordination, and weak impulse control. Because of these health effects, many of these children have a hard time transitioning into adulthood. In fact, 35% spend time behind bars. Cronkite News reporter Jesse Schultz caught up with one Valley family coping with this disorder.
Children who suffer from fetal alcohol spectrum disorder are often helped by health and education programs in grade school. But I found the resources for adults with FASD are slim.
The thing is, you know what it is in your head. You do not know what it takes.
Bobby Kithcart adopted Tiffany 21 years ago. She was starving and abandoned by her mother. Bobby has fought for Tiffany ever since. At 7, Tiffany was diagnosed with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, or FASD.
I definitely wouldn't be where I am without her.
Tiffany's frontal lobe didn't develop fully in her mother's womb. She has problems with memory, irrational behavior, has a learning disability, and more. Bobby worked to get Tiffany the care she needed throughout grade school, but it wasn't easy.
This is a problem with FASD. You have to fit into their box. But the way the boxes are set up, both in education and healthcare, that's the box. You're in it. You get what's in it, but it isn't enough, and it's not the right thing.
One of the most interesting and challenging aspects of fetal alcohol syndrome or fetal alcohol spectrum disorders is the range of difficulties, the range of physical and intellectual disabilities that can be caused by it.
The Arizona Department of Health told me in 2014 there were 33 babies born with FASD just based on their physical appearance. This model shows the smaller eyes, flat nose, and flat upper lip that most babies with FASD have. Tiffany is having a tough time adjusting to adult life. Budgeting, planning, organizing, and keeping a steady job is hard.
Like I turned 18 and I was kind of depressed because life hit me all at once.
There really are no resources for young adults with FASD. The system doesn't see them at all. And so you get to be 18, goodbye, good luck.
Sarah Ruman of the Bureau of Women and Children's Health works to keep babies and adults from winding up with this very preventable disorder.
Well, we are all about prevention. And so we would like to get the message out that there's no safe time, no safe amount, and no safe type of alcohol during pregnancy.
Bobby says the message is good, but not good enough.
God, I'd like to kind of help the state health department understand that they need to get out of the primary prevention mode and start helping these kids.
And Tiffany is one of the lucky ones to have the unconditional help, support, and love of her family. Tiffany told me she hopes to attend college to be a physical therapy assistant in the future. For fetal alcohol resources available in the Valley, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org. In the Broadcast Center, Jesse Schultz, Cronkite News. Less is apparently better than more when it comes to breast cancer screenings. That's according to new guidelines issued today by the American Cancer Society. The organization says most women should start getting mammograms at age 45 instead of 40, and women over 55 should get them only every other year. ACS says although mammograms can save lives, they also have a relatively high false positive rate. Critics of the new guidelines say those false positives are based on film mammograms and that newer digital mammograms are more effective.
Inefficient watering systems could be costing you.
Coming up on Cronkite News, what tools landscape specialists say could help cut your water usage down.
I'm the president of PBS, and I'd like to personally thank you if you've made a contribution to 8 Arizona PBS. You know, when you fund your favorite shows on this station, you're ensuring great television continues to be available for yourself, your family, and everyone in your community. One of the easiest ways to do that is by making a monthly contribution on an ongoing basis, what we call sustaining membership. When you call, tell us how much you'd like to donate each month. Our current sustainers tell us that $10, $15, or $20 a month is best for them, but you decide what works for you. After you've made that call, we will deduct that amount each month from your credit card or your bank account, and we will continue until you tell us otherwise. Your membership will always remain current, and renewal notices will become a thing of the past. Best of all, your ongoing support means that the best television on television will continue to come your way every single day of the year. So please, consider a sustaining contribution today. Thank you for your support of this PBS station.
Looking to save money as you start your winter gardening? Some landscape specialists say a different type of watering tool could help. Cronkite News reporter Eleni Dow checked out the cost-saving systems. Eleni?
The Environmental Protection Agency states that as much as 50% of our outdoor water use is wasted due to inefficient watering methods and systems. High-efficiency nozzles save more water than the older conventional heads. Listen closely. Now listen again. The louder the spray, the more water wasted. As a groundskeeper in Phoenix, Terry Peterson has changed about 800 water heads to the higher efficiency kind. Now he's taking action at home too.
People would want to switch over to these nozzles, like I'm going to, is to save money and be more water wise.
High-efficiency nozzles deliver more water to grass rather than just misting over it.
Converting an older, higher water use system to a high-efficiency system, they can save up to 30, maybe even 40% just on the heads alone.
Water pressure is another component in saving water. Doug Donahue from Ewing Irrigation worked along with Peterson at this Phoenix community. He says an added pressure regulator along with the new nozzles helped reduce the water bill in one area by 41%.
And when you operate a spray head at that high a pressure, you get real small water droplets that are susceptible to evaporation and drifting away. And so you're not watering efficiently.
Switching out all those nozzles is a big job for Peterson. He still has about 1,000 more to go.
It's part of my job, but to see the end result, it's well worth it.
So how much does a switchover cost? High-efficiency nozzles can range from about $1 to $8 each. A pressure regulator for a typical home runs about $80. In the broadcast center, Eleni Dow, Cronkite News.
2 new women's sports are coming to ASU's varsity lineup.
Details are coming up next on Cronkite News. Plus, talking about moving into new territory, we tally up the number of Starbucks locations looking to serve liquor in our state.
Are you a news junkie, history buff, science or nature lover? Then discover 8 World, an entire channel devoted to bringing the world home to Arizona. Watch 8 World on Cox 88 or over the air via antenna on 8.3. To find out how to tune into 8 World for your satellite or another cable provider, visit azpbs.org/world or call 602-496-2308. Discover your world. 8 World.
See this flower garden? There used to be a car sitting there, a car I didn't use and didn't want. So I donated it to public television, and they took care of everything. In addition to supporting my favorite programs, I earned a tax deduction. Turn something you don't need into something you really want. Contact the Vehicle Donation Program.
8 is Arizona PBS, a service of Arizona State University.
After adding men's hockey to its growing list of NCAA sports, ASU is adding 2 new women's sports for the 2017-2018 season. Those sports are lacrosse and triathlon. ASU is one of just 10 schools to receive an emerging sport grant from USA Triathlon. That grant is designed to help establish NCAA women's triathlon programs across the country. ASU is the only university from a Power 5 conference to adopt an NCAA women's triathlon triathlon team. And with the addition of women's lacrosse, ASU becomes the 6th school with a team in the Pac-12. That means the conference could hold a championship game at the end of the season.
Frappuccinos, lattes, and Merlot, it may be soon coming to a Starbucks near you. 16 Starbucks locations in Arizona have applied for liquor license. This is part of their Starbucks evening menu, featuring things like flatbreads, craft beer, and wine. Officials for the Arizona Department of Liquor say licenses requests keep trickling in from Starbucks locations, and they don't see them stopping anytime soon.
Coffee has been a really popular item now, and we're paying $5 and $7 per cup. And then what do you do in the evening? Maybe you just transition to a beer and wine bar, or a wine bar in this case. So yeah, we will. I think the trends in alcohol are never going to end. We're always going to see something new.
The liquor department has 105 days to approve the license. During that time period, community members, including competing businesses, have the opportunity to protest.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's next on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
Coming up after Cronkite News, it's Arizona Horizon. We'll discuss Nebraska's open primary system and how it might work in Arizona. And we'll hear about a Peoria healthcare facility with a healthy indoor environment.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, rock legend Patti Smith opens up in a new memoir. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.